exception of a single fine dining gig, was the longest she'd been in one place in her life. She needed variety. She could churn out someone else's mediocre recipes for only so long before she felt like she'd sold out. She'd been wanting to go back to Europe. She'd been away from Paris for 8 years, and even then she'd been so busy as a baking apprentice that she'd never had the chance to explore France beyond the capital. A few months to travel sounded like heaven. Melody sighed. That was as much a work of fiction as any book in her extensive library. Based on the current state of her savings account, she could barely fund a trip to the airport, let alone any points beyond. She was heading back for a fourth tub when she heard a tapping from the front of the store. She frowned, cocking her head in that direction. Probably just the snow or the wind rattling the plate glass windows. This strip mall was old, and every storm shook something new loose. No, there it was again. She wiped her hands on her apron and slowly poked her head out of the kitchen toward the front entrance. A man stood at the front door, hand raised to knock on the glass. Melody hesitated. What on earth was anyone doing out in this storm at 4 a.m.? Even worse, what was she supposed to do? It didn't bother her to be here alone, but she kept everything securely locked until the morning staff arrived to welcome customers. Hello? His muffled voice sounded hopeful. Didn't sound like someone who was planning on murdering her. But what did a murderer sound like anyway? She approached the window cautiously. Can I help you? He exhaled, his breath crystallizing around him in a cloud. My car got stuck down the street. Can I use your phone? Mine's dead, and I forgot my charger in the hotel. He pulled out a cell phone and pressed it against the wet window. Evidence, apparently. Melody wavered. From what she could tell through the snow-crusted window, he was nicely dressed. Didn't sound crazy. And sure enough, when she peered down the street, she could see a car cockeyed against the curb with its emergency flashers on. Listen, I don't blame you for being cautious. I'm a pilot, see? He opened his overcoat to show a navy blue uniform and then pulled out a badge clip holding 2 unreadable cards. These are my airport credentials. Homeland Security and my employer trust me with a $13 million plane. I promise, I just need a phone. A gust of wind hit him full force, the smattering of snow crackling against the window. He turned up his collar and hugged his arms to himself, waiting for her response. Melody sighed and pulled a keyring from her belt loop. She couldn't leave the poor guy outside to freeze, and she knew there wasn't likely to be another place open for miles. She just prayed that her compassion wasn't going to backfire on her. The lock clicked open, and she pulled the door inward. He rushed in, rubbing his hands together. Thank you. You have no idea how much I appreciate this. Sure, the phone's over there by the register. Melody pointed him in the direction of the counter. He nodded, turned toward the phone, then hesitated, and stuck out his hand. I'm Justin Keller. As his cold fingers closed on her warm hand, she looked up and found herself frozen by brilliant blue eyes. Melody Johansson. He smiled, causing her heart to give a little hiccup, and released her before moving toward the phone. She watched as he dug a roadside assistance card from his wallet and dialed. The stranger she'd rescued was handsome, almost unfairly so. Hair that vacillated between blonde and brown, cut short and a little spiky. Those arresting blue eyes. And a crooked leading man smile that must routinely melt women into puddles at his feet. No, not leading man. Fairy tale prince. Why was it that pilots seemed to dominate the good-looking end of the gene pool? Was it a prerequisite for the job? Justin was talking in a low voice. A sexy voice, she had to admit, just deep enough to balance the boyish charm, and she realized she should probably get back to work before he caught her staring. But he turned to her and cradled the handset against his shoulder. They said it's going to take a while. Is it okay if I wait here? Sure. She might have been reluctant to let him in, but her answer now was a little too enthusiastic. From the slight glimmer of a smile he threw back to her, he'd probably heard it too. Well, a guy like that had to be aware of the effect he had on women. She just never thought of herself.